Hey guys, welcome back to another Summoner's War video, and today I'm on my odd account and I will be doing a guide on rune management. I'll probably do this in two parts. The first part will be rune management for early game player, just so that it's easier to digest all the information. So in my definition, I would define early game player as someone who has probably just completed the B10 Kairos dungeon not too long ago. But then again, these tips could also be helpful for players who have progressed further than that. Okay, so just a disclaimer that all these tips that I'm providing will be based on my own opinion. So just take it as a guide, as a reference, and hope it helps. So before I start, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. This will really help to get my video out there, and I will really appreciate it. Okay, so for tip number 1, that will be to rune up all your monsters before cleaning up your rune box. So this odd account has a bad example. I believe I have probably some monsters that I didn't really rune up. Let's see if I can find any. Okay, I probably runed them up, but I didn't really rune them up properly, because you can see that my Tessaron has a blue rune, my Basalt has a hero rune that is not rune up to plus 12. So yeah, so tip number 1 is to rune up all your monsters before cleaning up your rune box. So why is that? Because you do not want to accidentally sell excess runes that are usable for your monsters, right? So if you can see that I have 758 runes, if I go in, let's see, you can see that, for example, for my slot 1 violent rune, I actually do have quite a number of plus 12 violent rune, but then I didn't give them to my Tessaron, right? So it's important to make sure that all your monsters are runed up properly before you start selling away some of your runes, because you never know, some runes might eventually be useful for monsters that are unruned. Alright, so that's tip number 1, and especially so for the 246 slot, and we'll go into that now, which is tip number 2. Do not blindly sell all 246 rare runes. Why do I say that? Because I guess for early game players, you will meet a situation where you realize that you lack a number of good 246 runes with percentage min stats. So what do I mean by that? So for example, in my account, if I look at my slot 2 violent attack percentage, I actually only have 2 of it. So that is really very limited as compared to my 135 slots. So my advice would be that if you receive a rare rune with percentage min stats, except for probably resistance, you should check whether do you need it. If you are lacking of such percentage min stats, then keep it. And if the substats make some sense, for example, let's say this, when I got it, it's just a flat attack and a crit damage percentage. I rolled it to plus 6, and both rolls went up to crit damage. So to me, that is pretty good. I can use it, so I will keep it. I wouldn't sell it. I think this probably wrote 1 speed and 1 HP. I'm not too sure now. But yeah, if let's say you plus 6 for your rare runes, it didn't go to the ideal substats, then you can consider selling it. If not, do keep it, because you never know when you'll pull a new monsters and you need that 1 extra attack percentage slot 2 violent rune, for example. Okay, so this does not just apply to violent runes. it applies to all types of runes as well. So yeah, do take note of that. Do not blindly sell all your 246 rare runes. For 246, if you receive any flat, then just sell it. I don't think I have a good example. Okay, this one. So you should only keep flat if there is a speed substats. You can try to roll it for quad or even triple speed, but otherwise then you can just sell it. I mean, for this, it's not an amazing roll. I didn't get quad speed, but because the rune quality in this account is quite poor, so I'm just keeping this for my Orion. Okay, because for flat main stats with high speed substats, you can actually use it for your booster to get turn 1. Okay, so this is just something to note. Moving on to tip number 3. So I've covered 246. Of course, I have to cover 135. For slot 135, my advice would be to keep only hero and above runes for these slots if you are able to farm B10 or above content consistently. And reason why I say that is because you will get more 135 runes as compared to 246 runes. So you could be a bit more picky when it comes to slot 135 runes. But of course, let's see, for example, this on my Tessaron, if you are looking for speed substats, I think this rolled twice into speed. You could try to roll this rare rune if needed. So I think there are 2 conditions which you can try to upgrade your rare runes. One is there's a speed substats and you need that speed substats. Secondly, if there is substats that make sense, let me see if I can find some. I think I don't have any right now. Let's see. Okay, I don't have any right now. Anyway, this rune is trash. So what I mean by substats that make sense, let's say for example, you have a violent slot 1 rune with the substat attack percentage and crit rate percentage. In that case, if you are lacking of good runes, then you may consider to upgrade these runes to see whether did it hit maximum roll and is it worth keeping. Alright, if it's a low roll, then just sell it. Okay, but I think generally, since now we have auto farm, you should try to keep only hero and above runes for slot 135. Okay, before we move on to tip number 4, if all these tips have been helpful, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Really appreciate it. Alright, and let's move on to tip number 4. Okay, so on the screen you'll see that there are many different types of runes, and tip number 4 would be to apply different standards for different rune type. Why do I say that? Because there are some runes that you will realize that you need it much more than others as you progress through the game. For example, you will probably need more Swift, Rage, Fatal, Violent, and probably Will runes as compared to runes like Destroy, Nemesis, Despair, right? So generally, Swift, Rage, Violent, they will outweigh the use for Destroy rune, for example. So when it comes to runes like Destroy rune, you can afford to raise your standards for the types of runes that you want to keep. For example, this rune, actually I think I don't need it. I can just sell it. Just because at my current stage of game, I don't really see me using Destroy rune much. So my standard will be pretty high. If it's not a hero or legend rune, I will sell it, except for of course 246. So let's talk about violent rune. If let's take for example this rune. This rune doesn't look amazing, but because it's violent, I will just keep it for now. But if I were to see this substats on shield rune or even a destroy rune, I will likely sell it. So this tip number 4 is just to apply different standards for different rune types. For rune types that you use it more often, You can lower the standards and keep more of those runes. For rune types that you don't really use it, raise your standards and sell more of those runes that don't really make the cut. Now for tip number 5, and that will be the last tip, which I think it's really important, which is to assess if a particular rune can replace an equipped rune before making a decision to sell it. I think a lot of early game players are not doing this. What they do is probably they will just uncheck the equipped runes and they will look at all these runes. Okay, so there's a rare rune here, doesn't make sense, I will sell it. But you should see the whole picture by actually looking at your equipped runes. Then now I realize that, hey, my Tessaron has a rare rune. Can I actually upgrade his rune and sell this particular equipped rune? So that is quite important. Another example I want to illustrate would be this Endure rune attack percentage. I think a lot of people, when they see attack percentage on runes like Endure or maybe, let's see, Focus or Energy, they might just sell it. But then again, if it is a good roll and it helps to upgrade your monster's rune quality, then why not just keep it? I have another one here, but I think all this, okay, this is a hero rune. So if it's, I think this is a legend rune. No, it's also a hero rune. Yeah, so if it helps, then keep it. Use it as a broken set. It never hurts, and in fact, it will help you to progress through the game faster. So one useful way will be to actually use the sub property and just screen through your runes, right? If you realize that, for example, let's see, for example, my slot 4 Endure, I realize I only have 4 runes with speed substats. Then the question is, do I want to sell this rune? Maybe not. Okay, so use the sub property functions to help you sort through and compare it across your different rune types. That will be really helpful to make an assessment on whether to keep, sell or upgrade a rune. When in doubt, you can always +6 a rune, and if it doesn't turn out to a rune that you expect it to be, then sell it. No harm, it doesn't cost much anyway to +6 a rune. But for early game player, resource is scarce, so try not to +12 everything. Really try to select and pick runes that have potential to improve your current rune quality. I guess these are the 5 tips that I have to share with early game players. I will be doing a second part for mid game players onwards, so do stay tuned and check out the next video. That's all for today. Thanks for tuning in.